Okay, so here we are, as you predicted, as many people did. The Drake Maye stay. The Patriots stay at 3. What were you hearing was being offered to the Patriots?
Yeah, they had substantial offers over the course of the last week, really. And I think what was interesting about it to me was you guys know the Jimmy Johnson draft chart. So I think the offers were commensurate to what you would see on the draft chart. And they wanted the quarterback premium and then some. And I don't know how serious they were ever about moving the pick because they really love Drake Maye. And I think one of the interesting questions to ask, and I know this was asked internally with them, was look at the two teams who want to come up. And I can just tell you, and I think I've said this here, said on the midday show yesterday, I think I said it with you guys last week. The Giants were a Drake Maye or no one team, right? Like, and that's clear now. It was either Drake Maye or we're not taking a quarterback. Now the other two were out of play, right? Like, sure. But it wasn't Drake Maye or J.J. McCarthy, Drake Maye or Michael Penix. It was Drake Maye or we're taking a receiver, which they did with Malik Neighbors. And then the Vikings were hyper-aggressive to try to get Drake Maye, and then look what they did after that. They let J.J. McCarthy come to them, right? So you can see the different levels they saw those two players on. Who are the coaches of those two teams? Kevin O'Connell and Brian Daboll. And that was a question that was asked inside the Patriots building over the last 48 hours. Why would we even think about moving off of this? Look at the two guys who really want him.
Yeah.
They're familiar with both guys. Daboll and O'Connell have both worked for the Patriots, so they value them. They're both considered offensive gurus. So that was an opinion of mine throughout this whole thing. Is like you're that confident about your brain trust that you think that you know better than those two teams that are willing to in what are you getting in return? So
I always try to pay attention to that because look Bo Nix was shocking that he went 12th, right? Like, and I think a lot of us had connected him to the Broncos, but I don't know anybody. I don't know too many people who thought they would just sit there at 12 and take him. But the more I thought about that over the last couple of days, right? The two teams that were on Bo Nix were the Broncos and the Rams. That's Sean Payton and Sean McVay. So, I think you do have to pay attention to things like that.
But those are also two teams that, like them more than Penix, obviously, but they didn't. I don't think that they thought that they were going to be able to move up to get J.J. McCarthy.
Right. So, but the Broncos could have. I mean, the Broncos were in range to do it.
Yeah, they were in range to do it. Okay, so so I heard a guy from Minnesota saying that the Vikings wouldn't have done it. But what he had heard is that the Patriots wanted 3 first-round picks and Justin Jefferson to make that move. Did you hear anything similar to that?
I haven't heard that specifically, but that makes sense to me because I know the Vikings were willing to put the 2 first-round picks this year, 11 and 23, and a first-round pick next year on the table for them.
Yeah, which is not a good deal for the Patriots, in my opinion, because you're losing value on one of those picks, so one of those picks is a loss for you.
You do need more. The quarterback premium he was talking about.
Right.
And yeah, I'm wondering, though.
But people say 3 first-round picks, but you realize one of those
moving one
you're
down.
losing.
You're moving one
you're
down.
You're
getting 2 for moving one down.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So there wasn't a Godfather deal once the Patriots were on the clock. That was speculated, too. Once the Patriots are on the clock and it was official, Maye was there.
Yeah,
the thought was someone was really going to call in those 10 minutes and try and knock them over.
No, and I mean, the Giants were in touch with them. The Vikings were in touch with them. And I'm going to do a little more reporting on that today, John. But, as far as I could tell, I know in the morning no one was close to what the Patriots wanted. And that they were resolved on, we're going to stand pat and take a quarterback unless something materially changes, and nothing changed. I mean, and they talked to those two teams during the day, and those two teams were supposedly coming up. And I think we've talked a lot over the last few weeks about, well, if you're so sure, right? Mm-hmm. If you're so sure, then why are you taking calls? They turned down really good offers, so they were pretty sure about this one, and really good offers where, I mean, look, they could have taken Minnesota's offer and gotten J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That if you look at the way that things played out, they could have taken Minnesota's offer and gotten J.J. McCarthy. And I think as the last few days played out, and you guys know this. Like I'm on the phone constantly, and when I did my mock, I had McCarthy falling to the Vikings at 11. That's because over the last 2 or 3 days, the Vikings became more convinced, and other teams in the league became more convinced that McCarthy was going to fall right through. That the Giants weren't considering him, which wound up being the case.
And the Giants were super hot on, like you said, on Drake Maye.
Yeah.
Do you think Drake Maye, at the end of the day, had more interest in him than Jaden Daniels?
See, I think they're different players. It's hard to compare the two because I think Jaden Daniels is much cleaner. He's older. The thing is, you're going to have to do certain things to accommodate him to get the most out of him. You're going to have to change who you are offensively to some degree to get the most out of him, and you have to play him a certain way. And that's not to say he's not a really good passer, because he is. That's what's special about him, is he can do both, right? Mm-hmm. But to get the very most out of him, you're going to have to play offense a certain way. And some teams are willing to do that. Other teams aren't. The Commanders started to telegraph it. They hired Cliff Kingsbury, right? And then they go and they sign Marcus Mariota as their veteran quarterback. So you started to see the pieces come into place where it's like, okay, like they're building a different type of offense. But yeah, I mean, there were teams that thought Drake was the second quarterback, no question. And I just tell you this, like, and you guys remember this, and this goes back to the fall. Like, if you had asked me in October, November who the second pick was going to be, I would have told you Drake. And if you go back to August, I think there are teams that would have said it's nearly a sure thing Drake's going to be the second overall pick. Now, Jaden Daniels had an incredible year. And a lot of teams believe that Jaden Daniels' tape was better than Caleb Williams' tape last year. So Jaden Daniels did so much to put himself in position to be the second overall pick. And Drake Maye, I think in the end, though, I said this on TV last night. I think one thing that's so interesting about this is Drake Maye went through a lot of the same things that Justin Herbert and Josh Allen did their last year in college. He lost his coordinator. He lost a lot of pieces around him. He had a number one receiver going through an eligibility issue. And I was texting with somebody over there this morning about what sold them on Drake Maye. And one of the responses I got was it was his absolute refusal to blame anyone else for anything that happened last year in North Carolina. What does that sort of sound to you like?
We did it the other way, and that wasn't a lot of fun.
Exactly right.
We didn't appreciate having anyone in here, but they even insinuated it was someone else's fault other than
Yesterday,
But isn't that like honestly, isn't that interesting though? Like the kid had like so much went wrong for him, and he got the crap knocked out of him, and his tape wasn't as good, and he like so many circumstances changed on him, and he absolutely refused to blame anyone else.
To piggyback on that, I heard a guy from that one of the coaches at North Carolina was on something, and he was saying how like loyal he was, and how in the transfer era that he could have transferred, and that like
I told you guys what Ohio State offered him. So.
Yes, you did.
I mean, I can't say the number here, but I think you guys.
But he said it off the air. It's $300.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's right.
And he was offered a substantial amount of money to go to Ohio
A Gorman
State last
package.
Year. He was. I believe he was also offered a substantial amount of money to transfer to Alabama.
Oh, I can't imagine that.
Yeah. So
next thing you say, Texas A&M offered.
I think that I think there's a loyalty piece to all of this.
Yeah, which was a positive in his direction. There's just two things that I thought were interesting that people were getting knocked on in this draft with quarterbacks. One was Drake Maye staying at North Carolina, which I thought was a positive. And two was J.J. McCarthy playing within the offense of Michigan, which I thought was an interesting knock on him. They won a national championship.
Right.
Like, he didn't bitch about not being able to throw. He didn't.
No, I think there's some unselfishness to McCarthy, too.
Yeah, no. This is not this is just the two things I didn't understand that were knocks on top quarterbacks this year was Drake Maye staying at North Carolina and JJ McCarthy playing within that offense because he was asked to do something and it worked. They won the national championship. Well, there was a very good offensive line and they had running backs. Okay. Well, they won the national championship. They didn't win it despite him.
It doesn't make sense when that becomes a knock on McCarthy himself. Most of the analysis I heard was that it just presents more unknowns with McCarthy.
Which is fair.
Yeah, which is I think the fair criticism of McCarthy was you'd like to have seen more. You'd like to have seen him
Sure.
playing from behind more.
Yeah,
You'd like
but
to have
not
seen
his
him in
fault.
third. Yeah,
But-
but those are all good things that he wasn't in those situations.
But he also was, to my knowledge, a very good third down quarterback. There's
Right.
a lot of things about McCarthy that I thought he was unfairly knocked for. But look, everyone loves Penix because they watched the one game.
I was going to ask, but maybe we should wait till the other side.
The other side, maybe the top of the hour or the bottom of the hour.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.